What if the very pain you're trying to escape is the path to the strongest version of yourself? Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every life when the weight of pain feels unbearable, when the nights are longer than the days, and the silence inside us screams louder than the world outside. You've been there, haven't you? In that place where your heart ached with questions no one could answer, where the very thing you believed would destroy you became your only companion. But I want you to know something today, something powerful and eternal. Your pain is not pointless. It's a fire, yes, but not the kind that burns you down. It's the kind that burns away everything that isn't meant for you, leaving behind the purest, strongest, most unshakable version of you. Struggle is not the enemy. Struggle's the sculptor that chisels away at who we were to reveal who we are meant to become. Every scar you carry is a sentence in the story of your survival. Every tear that fell was watering the roots of the strength you stand on today. When life breaks you, it isn't the end. It's the beginning of a new chapter where you rise not despite the pain, but because of it. Pain teaches, pain transforms. Pain gives birth to courage you didn't know you had. And when you stop running from it and start leaning into it, you'll see the purpose behind every storm you thought would drown you. There is power in you that has been buried under shame, fear, and the lie that you're not enough. But your story isn't over. The world needs the voice that came from your silence, the light that came from your darkest days. Don't hide your pain, harness it. Let it speak through the art you create, the kindness you offer, the battles you fight for others still stuck in what you've already overcome. You're not broken, you're becoming more compassionate, more resilient, more alive than ever before. Your pain's not a punishment, it is a passageway. Walk through it with your head held high, because beyond that threshold is your power. Ladies and gentlemen, pain is not the villain we make it out to be. It is not just the ache of loss or the echo of disappointment. It is the fuel that sharpens our edges, forges our character, and propels us to a level of power we didn't know existed within us. We live in a world that often teaches us to numb, suppress, or hide our pain. We are told to smile when our hearts are cracking, to pretend we're fine when we're quietly breaking. But what if we stopped running from the hurt? What if we turned around, faced it dead in the eyes, and dared to ask, what are you here to teach me? Pain is the silent architect of every triumph that the world admires. The strongest people you've ever heard about were not born strong. They were wounded, they were torn, they were brought to their knees in darkness, abandoned by those they trusted, misunderstood by those they loved, and left to crawl their way out of emotional dungeons no one else could see. And yet somehow they rose, not because they escaped the pain, but because they allowed it to mold them, to grind away everything weak, everything false, everything unworthy of the strength they were meant to carry. When you embrace your suffering instead of resisting it, you unlock an inner furnace that most never discover. You begin to realize that the cracks in your soul are not proof of failure, they are the passageways through which your light escapes. Every sleepless night, every betrayal, every shattered dream holds within it a lesson that no textbook can teach and no mentor can explain. Only those who have felt the chill of rock bottom can fully appreciate the warmth of growth. Only those who have been lost can understand what it means to be found by themselves. You don't need a perfect past to become powerful. You need rawness. You need truth. You need pain that cuts deep enough to reach the part of you that still believes in the impossible. Every tear you've cried has watered the soil of a future you can't yet see. Every scar you carry is a badge of endurance, not shame. Let the world judge you. Let them assume your silence is weakness. They don't see the war you fight behind closed doors. They don't know how many times you've pulled yourself from the wreckage when there was no applause, no recognition, no hand to hold. But you know, and that knowing is everything. When you refuse to let your suffering define you as a victim and instead use it as the foundation of your rebirth, you take back power. Real power. Not the kind measured by money or status, but the power to wake up and keep going when everything around you says quit. The power to love again after being destroyed by betrayal. The power to dream again after watching everything you built fall apart. That kind of strength cannot be faked. It is earned, it is forged in silence, it is born in the fire. Don't ask why the pain came, ask how you can rise from it. Don't waste your wounds by hiding them. Show the world what healing looks like. Let your story be the proof that devastation is not the end. It's the starting point of greatness. Your suffering wasn't random. It was sacred. It was preparation. The worst things that happened to you were not the final chapter. They were the prologue of your power, and that power, it's waiting for you to claim it. Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments when pain doesn't scream, it whispers. It seeps into the quiet corners of your life, numbing your joy, draining your energy, questioning your worth. It doesn't arrive with grand explosions. Sometimes it just lingers, like the silence after a slammed door, or the emptiness in a room once filled with love. And yet, even in those hushed devastations, there is transformation taking place. You don't need loud battles to prove your strength. Sometimes the most powerful victories are won in private. When you stand up from your bed, put one foot on the ground, and face the world when every fiber in you wants to disappear. This is not about being unbreakable, it's about being willing to feel the shattering and still show up. Pain isn't something to be erased, it's something to be harnessed. You cannot become everything you were meant to be while living only in comfort. Comfort does not challenge you, it does not demand reinvention. But pain, it dares you. It stretches you to the edges of your capacity and then pushes you farther. The fire you've walked through didn't burn you to ashes. It burned away the lies, the belief that you are small, that you are incapable, that you are not enough. The truth always survives the flames. You may have been rejected, you may have been humiliated, you may have lost everything you once leaned on for safety. But that loss didn't come to punish you, it came to cleanse you. It came to reveal that your power does not depend on who stays, what you have, or what others think of you. It lies in your decision to keep moving, even when the ground beneath you is uncertain. You are not weak because you hurt. You are wise because you understand what pain feels like and still choose to rise with compassion. Every breakdown has the potential to become a breakthrough, but only if you stop burying the hurt and begin turning toward it. Healing does not happen by pretending you're fine. It begins when you finally stop running from what broke you and start listening to it. Pain is not your enemy, it's your awakening. It's the raw truth that peels away the illusions you've clung to, forcing you to meet yourself, not as the world sees you, but as you are when everything else is stripped away. People will tell you to move on, but this is not about moving on. This is about moving through the memories that haunt you, through the moments that shattered your confidence, through the days you felt invisible, because what you avoid controls you, but what you walk through transforms you. And every step you take through your storm becomes a building block for the bridge you'll one day use to carry someone else out of theirs. When you accept your pain without letting it own you, you become unstoppable. Not because you are fearless, but because you are brave enough to feel everything deeply and keep going anyway. You become a force, not of denial or escape, but of truth and transformation. That is the kind of power no one can take away from you. Not time, not loss, not trauma. It becomes part of you. Not a wound, a weapon, not a burden, a breakthrough. You've earned every inch of strength you now hold. It wasn't given, it was carved out of heartbreak and refusal to give up. Your future is not built on the days you felt strongest. It is built on the days you felt defeated and chose not to surrender. Those moments when the world expected you to fall and you rose instead are what make you unforgettable. That is where your legacy is born. Not in perfection, but in perseverance. Not in glory, but in grit. The pain you've endured is not a chain holding you back. It is the chisel that shaped your soul into something unshakable. You didn't break down for nothing. You broke down so you could break through. You didn't suffer in vain. You suffered to awaken a power that can only be discovered by surviving. Now that you've survived, it's time to rise. Not as who you were, but as who you became because of everything you've faced and conquered. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a hidden war inside every person you meet, a war between who they are and who they once believed they were meant to be. That war often begins with pain, not the kind that bruises the skin, but the kind that bruises the soul, the kind that makes you question your voice, your dreams, your value. You might be sitting there now, wondering why life had to hurt you so deeply. You might be asking what it all means, but the truth is, not all pain comes to destroy. Some pain comes to direct. It doesn't close doors just to leave you hopeless. It closes them to guide you to the ones you would never have knocked on yourself. And sometimes your deepest disappointments are the most divine redirections. There is nothing weak about being wounded. Pain has a way of awakening something in you that would have otherwise remained dormant. The ambition to fight back, the hunger to live again, the refusal to be defined by trauma. When everything in your world falls apart and the people you trusted most disappear into shadows, what remains is not emptiness. What remains is the raw blueprint of your most authentic self. And in that blueprint is the architecture of power. The power that is born only from survival, only from heartbreak, only from being forced to rise when your soul was shattered in silence. Do not underestimate the quiet warriors, the ones who show up after betrayal, who continue after loss, who rebuild without applause. These are the people who turned their pain into purpose. They did not wait for rescue. They did not beg for understanding. They took the brokenness and made something unbreakable from it. And you can too, because pain is the soil of greatness. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for the right time. It just arrives and dares you to either surrender or evolve. If you are still breathing, you have not lost. You are still in the process of becoming. Pain is a test, but not a test of how much you can endure. It's a test of whether you will choose to rise, even when rising means walking through fire. The fire does not destroy the strong, it defines them. You must stop wishing away the pain and start learning from it, because inside every wound is wisdom that cannot be bought or borrowed. The things you know now, the instincts you trust, the compassion you carry, the strength you wear quietly, none of it came from ease. It came from the moments that broke you open and showed you what was buried inside. And still, you stood still, you kept moving forward even when no one saw the war raging behind your smile. You are not made of what has happened to you, you are made of how you responded to it. You are made of the days you got out of bed when your spirit begged to stay buried in despair. You are made of the conversations you had with yourself when no one else could understand the weight you carried. And yet you carried it. You carried it not because you wanted to, but because you had to, because something inside you refused to be erased. Now, look back at everything you thought would destroy you. Look at how you survived it. Look at how it shaped your resilience, how it taught you the kind of lessons no victory could. There is honor in your survival, there is legacy in your scars, and there is incredible power in choosing to use your pain, not as a reason to close yourself off from life, but as the reason to live more fully, love more deeply, and give more generously. Let the pain teach you how to feel more without fear. Let it teach you how to recognize suffering in others and offer them light. Let it teach you that the purpose of pain is not just personal strength, but universal connection. When you understand your own hurt, you become a bridge for others who are still lost in theirs. You become proof that healing is possible. You become a story that says, you can rise too. Do not hide the parts of you that were made in pain. They are not your shame, they are your strength. They are the reason your voice shakes with truth when you speak. They are the reason your words cut through the noise with honesty. They are the reason you are unforgettable, not because you've had an easy life, but because you had every reason to quit and still didn't. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, pain in its most brutal form does not merely wound the surface, it reaches into your identity. It doesn't just make you cry, it makes you question everything. It forces you to stare into the mirror and see a stranger. Someone changed, someone scarred, someone unsure if they'll ever be whole again. But there is a truth hiding in the aftermath of every heartbreak, every betrayal, every loss. Your pain is not a reflection of weakness. It is proof of depth. It is evidence that you dared to care, to risk, to dream. And though the world may try to convince you that brokenness is shameful, I'm here to tell you the opposite. Brokenness is sacred because it is the birthplace of transformation. You are not here to be untouched. You are not meant to go through life unscathed. You are meant to collide with reality, to feel the full weight of what it means to be human, and from that collision you are meant to emerge, not as you were, but as someone entirely new. Life does not offer immunity from pain. They are the ones who refused to let it silence them. The ones who turned their agony into art, their sorrow into strength, their despair into defiance. The human spirit was never built to shatter permanently. It was built to bend, to endure, and then to rebuild itself with more force, more clarity, and more compassion than before. You cannot become powerful until you've been powerless. You cannot become courageous until you've stood trembling in the face of something that tried to destroy you. And you cannot discover your true worth until the world has tried to convince you that you have none. It is in those moments, those silent, suffocating, solitary moments, that you discover what you are made of. Pain gives you permission to strip away the superficial. It rips the mask off your face and says, now show me who you really are. It doesn't care about your image. It wants your truth. It wants your rawness. It wants to pull out of you every dormant strength you've ignored and show you that even your deepest ache can be your greatest tool. You are not here to escape struggle. You are here to survive it and become someone who can say, yes, I have suffered and I am stronger because of it. Your darkest moments do not destroy your purpose. They clarify it. When you are in pain, you become hyper-aware of what truly matters. The noise falls away. The trivial vanishes. What remains is real. What remains is purpose. And that purpose is not to be perfect. That purpose is to use what broke you to build something that no one else can. That purpose is to walk back into the fire, not as a victim, but as someone who has learned how to carry others out. That is your calling, not just to heal yourself, but to become a healer for the world around you. The world does not need more perfection. It needs more people who have tasted pain and chosen not to let it harden them. People who feel deeply, who cry openly, who fall apart and then piece themselves back together with threads made of courage. That kind of person changes lives. That kind of person inspires others to keep going when everything tells them to quit. That kind of person, wounded, brave, relentless, is who you are becoming. You do not need to pretend anymore. You do not need to be untouched by life to be worthy of it. You are already worthy because you've walked through what many never talk about. You've faced demons that tried to silence you. You've buried dreams you thought would never rise again. And yet you are still here. That is not just survival, that is triumph. You do not need to pretend anymore. You do not need to be untouched by life to be worthy of it. You are already worthy because you've walked through what many never talk about. You've faced demons that tried to silence you. You've buried dreams you thought would never rise again. And yet you are still here. That is not just survival, that is triumph. Turn that pain into the foundation you build on. Let it remind you every day that you were not destroyed, you were refined. Let it fuel your words, your art, your relationships, your work. Let it be the reason you show up fully, fiercely, and honestly. Because someone out there needs to know that pain does not end a story, it begins a new chapter. And you are the living proof that chapter can be the most powerful one of all. Thank you.